voice is off. Okay, and then we're gonna go on this. And we are live. We're here in YouTube land.
Hello, YouTube land.
Hello. We have entered a new reality. Here we are. It's super fun. So I just want to, I'll start us off, Deborah. I am so happy to be here with you. You have been this like almost like a fairy godmother in our lives. You have.
Mm.
You've always seen the light in me, in my husband, in our children, and have encouraged us to continue on this journey that we're all on in terms of self-discovery and awakening and learning. Oops, Danny's telling me record the Zoom. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Danny. Yeah.
Thank you, Danny. So we can make sure that you get this, but you've just always been there for us. And I wanted to share you with my people, the people that are going to watch this video now and later, because it's so wonderful to have someone in your life that you can reach out to and say, hey, could you do a remote healing? And actually receive, like a lot of times, Deborah, you'll say to me, yes, but Marie, I taught you how to do this. You can do this on yourself. And I'm like, true, but there's something around having that support. And it's like for me, just giving myself permission to be on the receiving end of it because it is my life. It's like things that I do are out there supporting others. So to be on the receiving end of it. And every single time, I mean, we've probably had upwards of 10 sessions, maybe um, around there over the years. And every single time you have come back to me, like there will be a moment during my day where it's like, I have this awareness that something has shifted. And there were times when I like got in bed and like had to like lay down or cancel an appointment. And there are times when I was in like bliss and euphoria, like the clearing and the energy. So I just wanted to share you. I wanted to share your work. We're going to put all of Deborah's information if this conversation resonates with you and you can reach out to her directly because it is really, really powerful to pull in the humans right now that are actualizing these big universal principles and practicing them and that are sharing them too. Like it takes, I was thinking it takes so much courage for us to do this. It's not like it does. It's like, here I go. Like, okay, I'm going to kind of get over this aspect of myself that doesn't want to share, that wants to hide, that wants it to be over. I'm going to get over that part because this is more important. This demonstration of sharing, of unity consciousness, of love, and all of the good things that we value. It's actually a very practiced, it's something we practicing. It's like it's a practical way of seeing the world. And so yesterday I reached out to Deborah and I was like putting together some of this content. I was like, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? Because I like to free flow. But when you said something about the series on YouTube that you're doing around lessons in awakening, and creating reality, the reality that we want, because we're always creating, we just shared that. I thought this would be a really, thank you for that, because that's such a great starting place. Because what I'm seeing more and more is this almost like this absence of awareness that we are responsible for the reality that we're seeing in the world. Like we're responsible for the things in our lives that we don't like and that we do like. That everything is malleable, like everything can be shifted based on our perception. And I'm a Course in Miracles student, so I always talk about miracles being a shift in perception. And so for me, you're one of those miracle workers that supports this awakening, this shifting our mindset and seeing our potentiality and actually manifesting the things that we want. So that was kind of like a little bit of everything. But I'm going to give you the talking stick. And if maybe you could just kind of talk about some of the things that you've been learning, some of the things that you're seeing in clients, that can be super helpful in terms of creating the reality that we want. We want to see, that we want to manifest. Because like I just had one more thing, a client earlier today, and we were talking about like this knowingness that we have that there's more. Like there is a place where only love is real. Like there is a reality where there's no suffering, where there is only love. There is only joy. Everybody has enough of the things, the food, the shelter. We live in a reality with a little r. Like we see a lot of things in this plane that can be hard to digest. And then we can loop into that and get despair and feel sad about it. But it's like learning how to walk through this reality, like how to be in the space where we know that love is real, how to apply those principles as we move through the hard things. And you've just been so masterful. And I'll get to more of that sharing later about some of the deeper work Deborah's done with us. So, okay. One, two, three,
You
go.
I love you so much, Marie. Thank you so much for inviting me to this chat. You and I can talk for ages. We're both dominant in fifth energy center. And that's interesting actually, because I think that answers a lot of the things that you've raised already is the soul profiles that I do. Because of course you did my online Heal Yourself to Happiness course. And so I am very aware of your soul profile. And when I have worked with somebody on that level, I see the light in them. You commented before about seeing the light, and it's interesting because when I work with people, I see the light in them. I see their divinity within them. And that just it's just love, right? And as you say, only love is real. But it's very interesting because there are people in my own life, right, who I haven't done soul readings for, and I maybe struggle to see the light in them. So it's an interesting way of looking at it because I think a lot of this is there are layers, it depends who we're working with. Everybody's a mirror.
Mhm.
So, you start loving yourself more, you start meeting more people that are going to love you. It's just a beautiful way it is. And then there's always those mirrors out there that are just letting you know that there's something else to work on. And it's perfect. I think it's divinely orchestrated. And so I think the soul profiles are really relevant. I mean, you're certainly living yours. Um, you don't need to go into details of that. But apart from the fact that we know that, well, you've probably forgotten. A lot of people forget their soul profile. I don't. So you're an Arcturian starseed, and that's one of the reasons that you said something about like me being a fairy godmother or what have you. But I'm an Arcturian starseed. So we have that connection. And I'm pretty sure that you've been my daughter in a previous life. So I
Oh,
think there is that energy as well, which is why I just can feel it. It's that kind of energy. Um, but anyway, so I think the soul profiles are really important, which they help people understand the energies that they came here to experience and express in this lifetime. And when I say energies, I mean the qualities, the characteristics, the strengths, the gifts. And we all have the same energy centers, but there are 8 of them. But we're not all dominant in the same ones. And then our second dominant, third dominant, that's where we get our uniqueness from. So that's part of the work that I think is the most powerful. And it can really help people in all areas of life, of course. So yeah, that was one thing that came to my mind while you were talking. The other thing I do want to mention was when you said something about uh, getting over that feeling of wanting to hide and getting over that feeling. I think what shifted that most in me was when I learned from my own mentor, who said it every day for 2 years, there is only you. When we can totally embody the quantum truth that there is only us creating our reality, nobody else is. Everybody that we're perceiving in our holographic projection that we're calling life, or little reality as you call it, everybody is a reflection. So then when you know that, I mean, we know it on a receptive level, but then we need to bring it into the heart. Then we need to really embody it, don't we, until it becomes a knowing. But when you know that or realize that, it's like, so what? It's like nothing matters because there is only me, right? So nothing matters. I mean, not in a horrible way. You've got to be
yeah.
careful when you say these things because you could, it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter if I humiliate myself because there is only me, right? It doesn't matter if what I do. It doesn't matter if what I put out there is received or not because there is only me. So it's not like I don't care. It's not like I'm being well, thoughtless. Again, words like thoughtless, if you look at it from one level of consciousness, it's a negative word. You look at it from another level of consciousness, it's a
Right.
really positive word. So it
Right.
does depend how you look at these things. But when you realize that nothing actually matters, so when you realize that, then that helps you just put yourself out there, I think. It
Yeah.
helps you,
Right. It gives you distance from needing any kind of feedback, positive or negative. It's like, okay, I'm feeling guided and directed in this way. And then the disruptors or the disrupted or like all that excess thinking around the reasons why you shouldn't or like all of those things, we can set those things down and just move forward because that's the intuition, like that's the guidance, that's what's following your highest excitement. It's like, oh, like actually I want to share because the alternative of kind of hiding away and just being looping in negative energy, like what choice do I really have? Like that's one or this is the other, and I'm choosing to not be the victim of the world I see but the creator of it. And if there is only me, and I can trust that my intention is good because
yes,
there is benevolence that
yes.
created me. Like I am created loving consciousness. I am an idea in the mind of God. And so I am literally a ray of light. I'm just an extension of that. And when I don't know that, or when I perceive myself as separate, I'm in
Mhm.
suffering. But the
Yeah.
truth of it is, I've never been separate and I cannot be separate. It's impossible. It's like a wave is the ocean. Like it's not separate from the ocean. No, even if it expresses itself as a droplet of water, that is still water that is part of the whole. And so that's another way of, I think, expressing what you're saying of there's only me. Like there's only God. There's only God expressing itself through me. And so I could be of like false humility, like, oh, well, who am I? Like all of that is just mental programming and the insanity that I feel like so many of us have taken on as our programming, like our reality. But it's like that too is also a choice. And that's where we wake up and we wake up and we say, oh, I was choosing that and I can see how A, B, and C occurred and how I adopted these personality traits or I adopted this belief system and now I'm attracting, A, B, and C in my life that I don't like. But it's like in the awareness of that, we gain the capacity to make the changes because we realign ourselves to that higher frequency, to that energy that actually then does it for us. It's like, okay, I'll give you an example. Deborah recently, and I've talked about this a little bit online, but not too much because, we want to preserve some level of private life, but marriage is difficult. Marriage can be a real challenge if it's a mirror and I'm constantly being shown where I'm missing the mark. Because it's like we kept having these repetitive cycles, and I kept being like, how am I doing this? Like, how can isn't he responsible for some of this? Like, I'm creating my reality. Like, all of these things were really becoming so, so evident and prominent in my life. And when I came to you and your feedback back among many things, and one of them that I'll always keep with me was like, it's like if you're willing to do the thing that you don't want to do. Like if you can detach yourself from the outcome and just trust that like this or something better. Like the highest outcome is available to me given I'm not trying to control and manipulate this. When we gain that level of observation, that's when the miracles start to happen. That's an act of love.
Mhm.
It is an act of love to let go. And so there's a lot of that kind of talk in the spiritual world, like just let it go, just move on, it's free for all and like all that. But it's like the practicality of that is where the work comes in. Like, well, then how? Because we have these attachments to the outcome. We have these attachments to what it should be, how it could be, and how it's not right now. Anyway, that's just kind of a long version of saying that, when we build our awareness of the things, when we're willing to take responsibility for the things, that's when we can affect the change that we want. Actually, it's like doing the opposite of what we think we should be doing. Like, okay, let the marriage go. just walk away. And then like let all the dust settle and all the energy around that, like then what? And then learn how to be comfortable in that,
Hmm.
you know, and just kind of let,
That's that's what I call making friends with worst case scenario.
there you go.
And I think it works in all areas of life. I think, especially when we're making up stories, we're making up stories about things. It could be in any area of our life. And we're like, oh, this could happen or that could happen. And we're trying to fathom an outcome with our limited human thinking. And as you've said, our limited human thinking isn't only limited, it's programmed, right? So why do we think that in our human states, we can think in miracles? We don't think in miracles. And so when we try and fathom, it's like Mike Dooley calls it the cursed hows. That's not our business, how something's going to come about. We actually lower our own frequency and our own expectations and our own manifestations by even thinking how, right? So this is the problem. So you make friends with worst case scenario, and then you detach. Then you're happy it's a win-win situation, because if the outcome is worst case scenario, you're already friends with it. You've already learned to love that outcome and accept it and be okay with it. And the alternative, or the more positive preferred outcome, or that you were thinking before, is it can come in because you no longer have resistance
That was the word in my
to
head.
this one. Yeah, it's the quantum truth of what you resist persists.
Right.
So when you're having something, whether it's a relationship or a situation in your life, and it's less preferred, I like Bashar always uses the expression less preferred. Um, what he's really saying is you have resistance to that. It's like when we try and tell someone to do something, or we try and change someone, or we try and control something. Well, just by the act of trying to control a person or a situation shows that we have resistance to the way it naturally is evolving. And if you have resistance, then obviously what you resist persists.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this letting go, I mean, the concept is just like two words, let go. But again, it depends what level of consciousness you're at. Letting go means something here. Actually, my friend Liz and I did a video on what does letting go look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool because we were going through, well, this is an example of letting go, but then this is an example of letting go, and then this is an example, and it just depends how far you want to go with it. But when in the end, you'll let go of everything, right? Because you've let go of all your thinking and everything. So those two little words are powerful, and they get more and more powerful as you expand into more of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely not focusing on how things are gonna happen, and definitely making friends with worst case scenario. And the other thing that you were talking about, this kind of with this inner work, I think creativity is so important, because when you start creating on whether it's a small level or a large level, I mean, the universe doesn't know, right, the difference. I mean, even us just doing this, we're both dominant in fifth, which means we both like talking. So it's right up our street. We're not attached to the outcome. If nobody watches it, we're happy, right? And if loads of people watch it, we're happy, right? It's the same thing. So it's just about expressing your divinity. And creating something. I mean, you've created your materials and your clothesline, which again is in line with your third energy center. So yeah, that's all part of who you are. And I've created the garden retreat, in Pago in Valencia. And the thing is, though, these creations that we have, the way I look at it is, it's not so much we are creating them. It's like we are the project. We look at it like this is my project. So the
I love
garden retreat is my project. It's my baby, right? But no, 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 no. The garden retreat is, I am the project, and the garden retreat is my teacher.
I love that.
And so it
Love
really
that.
is teaching me, and it's giving me every day what I need. And
Mhm.
like you touched on this before, everything that comes into my reality is is a message. It's a symbol, it's a message, it's a mirror, however you want to look at it, whether I like it or don't like it, it's a message. And this brings us on to how we create our reality, because it's it's a message for me at a particular frequency that I'm expressing.
Mhm.
So we are always creating our own reality, whether you like it or not. Yes, like you said, we've created the as much as the stuff that we like, but understanding how we have done that helps us consciously create the reality that we choose. But we're constantly creating our reality through the frequency of our emotions and our thoughts. You use the word perception, which is like a belief, right? Our view. And if you look at the map of consciousness, you can actually see that one of the columns is your view of life. Another column is your view of God. So that's like your perception
Mhm.
of life, your perception of God, your thoughts about it, whichever word you want to use, your opinions about it.
Mhm.
Everything vibrates at a certain frequency.
Mhm.
And so you're going to be creating outside of you whatever frequency you have on the inside. So even if you're vibrating at the level of love, we can still have mirrors coming up to show us where there's some anger. And we can be, maybe the anger is getting a little bit less and less, but if something triggers anger, it's like, oh, that's interesting. I've got a bit of anger there. And it's got nothing to do with the trigger.
Right.
You know that it's inside you, and that actually the frequency of the anger, the energy, the emotional energy is vibrating at a certain frequency, and that is what's being reflected back to you. So the truth is, we actually have created the trigger, and that's a big one to get your head around, isn't it?
Mm.
So when you're triggered, it's a gift. So
Yes.
for me, this is the Eight of Cups in tarot, because you feel the emotion. And straight away, that finger pointing. You
Mhm.
point your finger and you've got three fingers pointing back at you. You know that you have to go into your cave and just feel that emotion and process that emotion. However we do that, we can do that just by feeling into it. We can do that by breathing it out. We can use the emotion code, which of course is my favorite. The tapping, there are many ways that we can process emotions, but the important point is that we do process it, because if we push it down, it's going to get reflected back again and again and again until we learn the lesson that it's our emotion, it's my anger. I have to process it in order for it to release from my energy body.
Exactly. Gosh, there was so much you said in there that was like I could take I can go in so many different directions. Um, I think with this idea that what you resist persists is is an indication for all of us, like to realize that we cannot be in control of reality. Like we don't get to affect, like we don't get to change ultimate like reality creation, like God stuff, but we can let that change us. And we can be in charge instead of in control. Like I can be in charge of myself. So like I can see, yes, I'm responsible. Like, wow, that triggered an element of anger in me. I can bless that. I can thank the person who perceivably did that to me, but it's like they're just doing that for me. It's like life is
Mhm.
happening for us rather than to us. And when we adopt that frequency of thinking, that level of thinking of self-responsibility, then we can affect the change. We can be more in charge of things. We're not more like the result of something negative happened. Well, I can't change this. He just keeps doing this to me. And like that level, spirals us out and keeps us kind of out of the field of love and possibility and potential because now we're just spiraling. But
Well, you're
when,
in victim mode, aren't you, when you do
right,
that? I love what you've just said: in charge, not in control. Love
yeah,
it. That's perfect.
thank
Yeah.
you. It's because when we find ourselves out of control or we've given, it's like we've given up our power. And I think that that's like if we circle it back to where we started from, like you're the one. You're the only one. So like you have such a potential here. Like you can literally create it the way that you want it to be, but we get so siphoned our energy and we project and we blame. Like I was telling my kids yesterday, like it's like Psych 101. If some child comes up to you and says, "You're dumb," no. They're basically saying, "I'm dumb." Right? We're projecting. So it's like I never learned this until I was, you know, in my 20s and 30s, and still it's a practice, you know.
Mhm.
But it's like if we start now sharing this information with the children and they realize oh, you're projecting. Oh, you must be having a bad day. Are you hungry? Are you tired? Was your mommy mean to you this morning? Like, instead of taking it all so personally and being like, oh, being so invested in how that like the way people are perceiving us. Do you know what I mean? We become
That's a big
so
one.
powerful when we give people permission to have their own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors about us.
Yeah, well, that's a really big one, isn't it? I mean, that's the first of the four agreements, isn't it,
Right.
by Don Miguel Ruth?
Right.
Don't take it personally.
Right.
But this brings me back to there is only you. So why would you take it personally? But that's a massive one, because what is it that they say? That other people's opinion of you has nothing to do with you.
No.
And you know what's beautiful about it is that when you really embody that, other people's opinion of you doesn't even come into your reality.
Right.
So it can't bother you. Do you see what I'm getting at? This is how you say that we affect the change. I mean, we do, but by changing us, when we let go of caring what other people think of us, and that's a difficult one, right? Because most
Right.
people want
Yeah.
to be liked.
Right. We do.
So you kind of, again, it goes in steps. You can not worry and let go of caring about people saying negative things about you, but there is still a part of our ego that still wants people to like us. So to letting go of that is more difficult. But if you just let go of all of it and go to that level where you understand that life is just happening through you, not just for you. So we take that leap from lack of consciousness, people thinking that life is happening to them and that they're a victim of their circumstances. And then we go into that heart area where we understand that everything is happening for us and for our benefit. Like I said, every mirror is a symbol, it's a message, it's a trapped emotion to become aware of, or it's a thought, or it's a pattern, or whatever it might be. But take it to the next level, which is up at the level of love and peace and stuff. And then you realize that life is happening through you,
Mm.
that you are actually life. I mean, you are the life, you're the one putting meaning on your life. You're putting meaning on your life through your perceptions.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It's like we're vehicles. It's like we're messengers. Like we're the ones you were talking about messaging earlier. It's like we're delivering the mail. It's almost like we don't need to open it and, determine if it's worthy or whatever. It's like love is worthy. Anything that we're receiving, the Course of Miracles teaches that anything that we're receiving is either love or a call for love.
Yeah, I like that.
I love that, because we're here to receive, to let the spirit work through us.
Hmm.
To be a vehicle for love's presence. Like the only difference between us and God from a course perspective is that we didn't create ourselves. We were created. And so when we align to this, like if I like myself, if I can learn how to forgive myself from any things that the things that I think I've made mistakes, and I can refrain from guilting and blaming others or blaming myself and stay out of those lower frequencies. If I can learn how to like and accept myself and acknowledge that, maybe I did make a mistake and I learned A, B, and C from it. And so I'm so grateful that that actually happened.
But it wasn't a mistake, right?
Right. It's like we start to see from a bigger place. Then it doesn't, if somebody says they don't like me, but I like me and I'm at peace with that, then you're right. It's fine. It's like you're totally sovereign. Like if that's how you want to hold your energy right now, then okay, you know?
Exactly. And it's also this, I mean, oh, again, so many things that I could respond to there. I had a recent experience, like with my own mother, about approval, because I just had this idea that my mother doesn't approve of me, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that that was the case, it was my feeling, right? Well, of course, that was because I wasn't approving of myself. And I realized that because, here I am, no one at school, when I was growing up, nobody at school said to me, why don't you become a tarot card reader and read from a tent in the garden in the middle of the Spanish countryside? No one put that forward as an option for me to go, yeah, I'm a gypsy, really, and my mother, we were born into families that give us what we need, not what we want. So I was born into a family that were very sort of status and money orientated. For me to find my way, that isn't the answer for me. And when I realized this, I was like, my mum came to visit the tent in the garden where I read tarot from, and I was like, oh, she's not going to approve. And then I had this realization: if I approve of myself, I love and accept myself and approve of myself wholeheartedly, then she has to hold that mirror up.
Yes.
And she came to see the tent. I told her I was I was tapping into the little gypsy inside of me. She said, oh, I didn't bring you up to be a gypsy. And she could have said that quite snootily, but she didn't. She said it quite wistfully. And I said to her, oh, I
Ah,
know you didn't. I know you didn't, but I got there in the end. And then we had this hug. And when we had this hug, I felt all of that disapproval just vanished. And I realized that it was because I had now completely approved of myself. And so now, whether my mum does or not, it's irrelevant. It's that, but she has to hold a mirror up to that. Do you see what I'm getting at? And she said to me, you're happier and healthier than I've ever known you. And I'm like, yeah. So it's kind of, but the point being that I was creating that because I was the one that was being snooty. I was the one with the limiting beliefs, and I was the one that was just a small part of me that wasn't approving of myself. And it's always like that. And everything is a call for love. You said it's a call for love. So we've touched on triggers, right? Take it to another level where we're not so triggered anymore, but we're talking about judgments. So
mhm.
we observe something, a situation or a person, and we're just coming to a judgment about them, whether it's favorable or unfavorable. We don't have to verbalize it, right? So we're not having all of that confrontation or anything, but still it's a judgment, right? That's still a mirror.
Mhm.
That's still a mirror. So the work goes on, but it's just more playful now. It's more fun now, you know. It's not the negative emotions coming up. It's just the curiosity of, oh, where am I like that?
Mhm.
Um, and things like that. And also the what got me with that realization was that when you judge somebody else, it's not a nice feeling. Let's say you're judging them unfavorably, of course.
Totally.
It's not a nice feeling, right? And now Paul Selig, he says, he channels the guides, and he says, when you put someone in the darkness, they take you there. So basically, it's entanglement, isn't
Yeah.
it? So when you judge somebody negatively, what you've actually done is you've put yourself, because you're the creator, right? You've put yourself into the murky water. That's what I would call it. Whereas this is why it's so important to see the divinity within people, because when you judge people favorably and you see the light in them, then you're entangling with the light, which,
Right.
you know, it's a whole different experience, isn't it? And so when you love somebody or something, because this obviously works with situations and everything, right? When you love somebody or something unconditionally, I mean, that is such an expansive feeling, right? That is such a beautiful feeling. That's an act of self-love. We're not loving people and things unconditionally for their benefit. It's all
Yeah.
about us. It always is. It can only be about us. And it's just if I judge somebody or I think something negative about them, then I'm lowering my own frequency, and that's not self-love.
Totally. Because the ideas never leave their source. So if my idea is that this person is at fault or this person did A, B, and C and could have done better, or isn't good enough, or isn't lovable, when I have that idea, because thoughts affect feeling, then I by definition am going to feel that judgment. And if there is only me, then I am literally, my subconscious can't tell the difference between you and me. So if I'm in judgment of you, it's like I'm judging myself.
Of course.
And so it's the same as what you just said. It's like if I see the light in someone, if I see the potential in another, if I offer grace and love and compassion, that's giving those vibrational qualities to myself because there is only me. There is,
Yes. And that frequency that you're talking about will be reflected back to you in the mirrors that are in your reality with a little r, right? Your holographic projection that we're calling life. So you can affect the world outside. This is the whole point, is that by loving ourselves, self-love is the journey. And this is another one that has the flip side, doesn't it? You think just be selfish, and it's just like people think self-love is selfish at some level. And then you get to the stage where you realize actually self-love is what is creating universal love. It's what's creating world peace. We owe it to world peace to love ourselves more every day.
Beautiful. It is beautiful because there is this perception of you're so selfish and all you think about is your thoughts and your feelings. And I think I was raised with kind of this, self-sacrifice, in service to others and in sacrifice to self. When actually it's totally inverted. It's like the best thing I can do for you is to take care of me.
Yes. Who was it that said that famously? Yeah.
I don't
The only
know.
thing I can do for you is to work on myself, and the only thing you can do for me is to work
Right.
on your.
Right,
Hmm.
right, right. And that's really the spirit of generosity. I mean, true generosity is like if I give the love, then I have an example. I demonstrate to myself that actually I have it. Like if I'm giving it to you, then I must have it. I can't give you something I don't have. If I give it to you and I don't have it, then I'll go into resentment. Like if I'm serving everybody else and then I'm lowering my frequency and then I'm, playing in that mucky kind of nasty water. When we're in the true spirit of generosity, then there's no space for judgment because we have tolerance. Like we realize I'm not here to judge anything. Like, and it's almost like I don't have to I spent a lot of my career, especially in the beginning, like with this fever almost to save the world. I was like, but even that was in judgment of it.
Of
Like,
course. And trying to change people because we want to help people.
right,
And just by, I mean, it's okay. We're not judging that, right?
right.
But it's just part of the process, especially, the healers and stuff like that. We're in it because we want to help others. But you get to that point where you realize that it is all about helping ourselves. And that actually has more impact on helping others than
Right.
operating from a place of depletion, like you said.
Depletion or that I'm better, that I have something that you need. It's like win-win, right? Like, yes, I can support you, but until you decide that you want that, it would be an act of like, my own ego to say, like, you really should do some work on yourself. Like, that's a judgment. Do you know what I mean?
Well, if you think that about somebody, which is okay, right? We're not going to judge ourselves for judging, right?
Right.
But that's fine as long as you realize that you're talking to yourself
So
and that you're the one that has the work to do.
absolutely. I mean, it's so interesting, isn't it? It's like all of these like little nuances that are pointing us all in this direction of just deeper levels of awareness and observation. Like, can we just observe this thing unfold? Can we, work on our own internal peacefulness, staying centered, being detached from the outcome, letting go of the things, observing our judgment, forgiving ourselves for judgment.
You're making it sound very complicated. You could just let go of all of that and just be.
But just to be, yeah, like that's essentially what we're up to
Yeah,
here. But let me
yeah.
ask you this, like when you feel like you're just being and you're doing the things and you're letting go and you're still receiving negative feedback or it's not, there's a misalignment. Like how do
Mhm.
you coach people or support people and even just for me because there are times that I'm like, I'm still seeing this. So, okay, there must be something still in
Okay,
me.
that's really interesting. I'm with you on this, and it's interesting that you're saying it now. And I don't know whether I do coach people. I think I just talk about myself a lot, because again, I think it depends what lessons you're ready to learn. So I think it's important to understand that we create our own suffering. And on some level, we do that at a soul level. I believe that the souls come in and they choose their parents, they choose their parental situation to give them the opposite of what they need, often, like I mentioned before. so that we would find, so that we know what it is that we want in life. Because if we had it from birth, we wouldn't acknowledge it and acknowledge that we needed it. But we actually, I think the souls have a conversation like, okay, so I'm going to choose to have this, a car accident this lifetime, and that's going to be my healing path. I'm going to lose my a child or my spouse young, so that grief is my, learning path. And I think we all do choose our own suffering. And I think that's a really important point, because when you can acknowledge that from an expanded state of awareness, it helps you process the trauma from a higher level of consciousness, and it helps you look at your human as a child. This happened to me a few years ago with grief, when I was able to hold space for Deborah. She was experiencing so much grief that understanding that I am my higher self and that Deborah is this beautiful instrument that expresses her soul. It was Albert Einstein that said our bodies are the instruments through which our souls play their music. So I was able to hold space with unconditional love for Deborah while she collapsed on the kitchen floor crying like a baby, right? So that's all okay, right? Because it's better than collapsing on the floor crying like a baby, thinking that everything is lost and everything is, you're still taking radical responsibility. And this is a feeling experience. The human one is a feeling experience. So it's okay to express these emotions. I think that's really an important point as well. But then, so I met the emotion code like 12 years ago, and that helped me a lot heal an awful lot, right? I mean, I've written books about it, as you know, and I teach it. I just love it. And there's lots of other ways that we can release trapped emotions, but that was just the path that I took. So it depends where you are on your path, because you can start healing yourself and carry on, and then you're healing yourself on a soul level, maybe, which is why I wrote my second book, and you can keep going. And then you think, wait, I'm healed, right? And it's just like, well, hang on a minute. I'm a project. I've chosen this human experience. It's going to keep going, right?
Right.
And so only last week, I actually had this fear come up that was just like off the scale. And nobody, we were up a mountain and there was like a sheer drop, and I was just panicking. Nobody else in my group was panicking, just me. So I could have gone into, oh my God, I need the emotion code. Oh, I need to tap, or, there's something wrong. I need to heal something. There's humiliation and all of this. And then I just thought, no, you know what? I was listening to an audio book and it just happened to say the right words at the right time. It just said something like, there is so much in our lifetimes that we can heal, and it's our job to do so. But there are things that we can't, and it's our job to accept. And
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, as soon as I heard that, because I was going into, but you specialize in emotional healing, Deb, how can this be happening? And what are you going to do about it? I've got to do something. And then I let it all go. I let it all go. And I was just like, hey, it was part of my human experience. It's
Mhm.
okay. And
Mhm.
so I'm not doing anything about it. So my point being
Yeah, I
that
love that.
my point being that it depends where you're at. It depends what comes into your reality. It depends what lesson you have to learn. I think, it's important that we understand that we can use various modalities in order to heal ourselves. And I think there's loads of stuff that we can heal ourselves. But I think there's also stuff that we've chosen. And we've chosen it to be perhaps the bane of our life, and we've chosen it for the purpose of acceptance, you
Mhm.
know? and allowing and just and it because it helps release so many other things in the process. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense because I think I mean, again, there's resistance to having fear. And it's like, well, you're in a body. You're still here learning. That's the whole purpose of this life. And I think that sometimes we get, at least I see for myself, I get discouraged when I find myself in fear or trauma, or like I'll be like, I thought I already did this, or God, didn't I already, I already did that, or I drank the juice, or I did this. So we go into the like approaching this from a matter level instead
Yeah,
of like, this doesn't matter. This is a part of
exactly.
it. It's just
Exactly.
occurring. That's where we go back to observation of like, can I hold space? Like you held space for yourself. Like, can I hold space for the aspect of me that's in fear right now and know that it's not the end of the world. that's just an experience, just like anything else, you
Or
know.
just choose not to think. Release all stories.
Mm,
I mean, I because I do the Psych K as well, which is very much about releasing limiting beliefs by installing the positive counterbalance belief.
right.
We did it on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
course. Um, so I've been very much about releasing negative thinking and replacing it with positive thinking. And I got quite good at that. I can create all sorts of positive stories about things that I don't know, right? But the next step is just to release all stories. Why don't you just release all stories, not have a story in the first place? And then you don't have to release it and bring in a positive one. Just live in love is the only thing that's real or whatever,
Yeah,
Only
yeah,
love is real. Sorry, yeah.
yeah.
And if you're in that energy, you don't even have to think. And that's when, I mean, this is the hanged man in tarot. That's when the goodies come in, when you're literally not thinking. That's when you're in your flow, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
that's when the best things come in, and then you could just ride that wave, and that's when miracles occur, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember the first time my yoga teacher said thinking is make believe. And I was like,
It's making up stories, isn't it?
but thinking is make believe because I valued my education, I valued being able to be articulate, and I thought, we value these things in the world with a little r, and when we practice something like yoga, for example, yoga is literally stopping the way the mind turns, stopping the modifications of the mind, the attachments of the mind, the stories, the perceiving I like this, I don't like this. Yoga is stopping that so that you actually see who you are, like, and then you can abide in your own nature.
Mhm.
And that is like, that's the seer. That's just the observation. It's like I'm just bearing witness to this experience. Like, and so there's a spaciousness between like what you were saying of any story, like not attaching anything. I'm just so how does that play out, practically in our life? It's like, well, I go here, something happens. Someone was sharing a story with me about how someone was very rude at the grocery store the other day, and they
Mm.
just blah, 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 blah. And she was like going on about it. And I was like, there was a part of me that thought, well, how would I handle that? And it's like, she put her cart and the other person said she didn't put it the right way. That's basically the story. And I thought, huh, if I was there, I would probably just would have been like, huh, okay, you know, okay. So sorry you feel that way, and then it's like moving on. And it's not like, can you believe that he'd had that? It's like you just didn't lock in. It's just almost like a glitch, like, oh, there was a glitch, and instead of like processing it or like just like it just okay, and then moving on.
Instead of reacting, because your reaction is what's
Yeah,
lowering your frequency, right?
right. And then it's all the emotion and all the charging of it and all the, the repeating the story and telling other people and then judgment and like all of that stuff. And so this is why I love these types of conversations and I love yoga practices and universal principles and like really trying to sort through this. It's actually quite simple. Like I've just learned how to make it very complicated and how to get all nitty gritty with all of it. And because I have a mind that's very powerful, because it was created, I just said this to my client, by the energy that created everything, it is
Mhm.
powerful. And so it does to a certain extent need training, yoga, emotion code, things like that. But those are still vehicles. Those are still vehicles to get us to that place of just being. You are a human being, right? And not
Yeah,
human doing machines. It's
and
like,
exactly. And yeah, this idea about releasing the stories. One of the one of my lessons in awakening, funny enough, we were talking about that. One of the lessons of awakening, I think, is number 15. It's called How Do We Detach from Our Thinking? And it's a beautiful analogy that you just think about your thoughts as being balloons. So they're traveling around with the little string, right? And they're traveling around. So, because we have some beliefs, thoughts are beliefs, right? Beliefs are thoughts, right? So there's some things that we believe, right? I mean, there's some things that we believe quite tightly, and there are
Yeah.
some, okay.
Yeah.
So what it is we get this balloon and then we hold on to the balloon, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then we find another balloon that matches it, and then the other balloons are over there, and then we've got these balloons, and this is where we get the division from, right? Because we're holding so tightly to certain balloons. So I think this analogy helped me um, release my attachment to my stories. We can still believe things, of course. There's stuff going on in the world. And there's also judgments because we have to make judgments. Of course, you walk down a dark alley on your own and you hear someone behind you. You've got to make a judgment. Is it safe? Is it not safe? Are you going to run or you're not going to run? I mean, it's all judgment. Right? You go to buy a car, you've got to make a judgment that this one's better than that one. So, we don't want to get too bogged down in some of this work, I think. But with these balloons, the secret is not to be attached to the balloon. And this worked for me really well with certain things going on because I was like, no, this is true. This is true. And I'm holding it really tightly. And I'm like, no, this is true. That's not true. And it's like, Deborah, are you attached to the truth of that? And it was like, do you need to be attached? Do you know? I mean, the Byron Katie work, right? Is it true? Does it have to be true? Do you know for a fact? Is it important to you that it's true? Just let go, right? Now, the balloon can still float up here. So, like, we're talking about a lot of opinions and a lot of beliefs and a lot of thoughts, right? We're talking a lot about it. So all those balloons are up here. But if somebody were to argue with me, like, for example, like I don't eat meat, right? And I know there's a lot of people that are now benefiting from a full-on carnivore diet, right? Which is fine because they're following their intuition and I'm sure it's right for them and maybe they've sway tested it. I don't know. I'm a big fan of that. It's just not right for me. But, a few years ago, I was very much holding the balloon that said, meat is murder or what have you, or whatever. And I was holding on really tightly and I would say no, it's like there is only me. And so for me, my path, I have to listen to my intuition, and my intuition is telling me this, and other people's intuition is telling them that. And it's perfect. And that's where acceptance and everything else comes in. But I'm not attached to the balloon. So if anyone comes up to me and wants to argue or wants to argue with me about any topic, any divisive topic, I'm not going to argue because I'm just going to let go of it's much more comfortable and self-loving to myself to let go of the balloons.
Right.
And just that's what I keep saying, just let go of the balloon. When I get caught up in a story, just let go of the balloon. It doesn't mean that you can't think about it. It just means that you're not attached to it. And I think that helps when people say, oh, how can you empty your mind? How can you stop thinking? I mean, of course, it's not easy, but I do think this balloon analogy really helps us detach from our thoughts, which I think is the first step to not having them in the first place.
I love that, letting go of the balloons. It's so powerful because what we're really it's like such a gift we give to ourselves, the space to value our inner peace more than being right. Like do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Like I'd rather be happy. And I'm learning that more and more the older I get, that like,
Yeah. And that's a
because
difficult one for me, right? Because I'm dominant in divine truth. And in the soul profiles that we were talking about before, and one of the flip sides to being dominant in divine truth is that we always think we're right. And I can identify with that in my younger days. So for me, that phrase, I heard it more like, it's better to be kind than it is to be right. And that's been one of my biggest lessons. I'm hoping I'm there now. I'm not sure.
just an example of vegetarianism. I mean, that's such a good one because I'm also a vegetarian, and I have spent so much of my time and energy in judgment around what other people should do with their diet. And like it just
There is no one else, remember. There is
right.
no one
And
else.
so it's like there's like I'm emptying this energy. I'm just draining. It just feels like, well, what let's just again keep my side of the street clean. Like I think Esther Hicks has a great something about staying in your own stream, like stay in your stream, like don't get in other people's streams. Like it's like this is my stream. And I think that sometimes we might do it out of self-love, like when we get entangled in relationships and we really want to support others or we want to, help them to see the things that we can see. But they remember they signed their own contract and they agreed to their own timelines and they agreed to their own circumstances. And so again, that's almost egoic of like being like,
But that's also coming back to the resistance. I had exactly this experience with my husband when I was trying to educate him on using toothpaste without fluoride. Okay. So but it was just going over his head. And the more I insisted, or the more I got wound up about it, the more what you resist persists. So I had resistance to him using toothpaste with fluoride in it. So it kept persisting. You have to let go. So once I just let go of not, and it's not like I don't care. This is what I'm saying. Of course I care about my husband. Of course I care about his health. But you've got to do it from a different level, right? So I completely let go. And then it was like a few months later that I noticed in the bathroom that, he didn't have his fluoride toothpaste and he was using the same brand as me. And I nearly sat there and cried, and I was like, I felt this so many times. That's just a small trivial example, right? But it's just
but it's
the way
big.
it is. Let go and they will find their own way, because energetically, your resistance to how they are is actually what's holding them back.
Mhm.
And when you realize that from a quantum truth perspective, it helps you let go.
Because you're reiterating the story. It's like we lock people in to the story of who we think they are. You're somebody who doesn't care about toothpaste, or you're not doing this because I want you to do this. It's like if we continue having that story, then they continue playing that out for us. But if you let go of the story, then they don't have any reason to keep.
When you're letting go of your resistance to them
Yeah,
not doing or doing whatever it is in the situation. It's me letting go of my resistance to it that actually freed him
right,
up to do his own thing. And
right.
then, of course, especially if it's a child or a spouse, the chances are they're going to find their path far more readily when you've let go. But they might not find the path that you have in mind for them, because they have their own unique path. And this is another reason that I kind of find acceptance with people that have difference. We talked about carnivore and vegetarianism, but loads of things, loads of divisions in life. Um, I have this understanding that the universe wants to experience itself in every form through our uniqueness. And although when we were at school, we grew up wanting to be the same as each other because being different wasn't nice, but now being different is our way out of the murky water, and celebrating our uniqueness. And like there were so many different, like, yoga teachers and tarot card readers, and there's so many different people that everyone's bringing their uniqueness into what they do. So there's no two people the same, which means there's no competition, because everything's resonance. It's not
Love it.
about competition, it's about resonance. But it's all about just being who you came here to be, and realizing that your uniqueness is actually what the universe wants you to express, because it's learning. It wants to experience itself in totality, if that makes sense, in
Absolutely.
entirety. So
Mhm.
it's actually our job to be different. So
Mhm.
that has really helped me accept people that are different, right? Because they are different parts of me. I am the universe, right? You mentioned this about the water and the drop. Rumi's quote: "We're not just a drop in the ocean with the whole ocean in one drop." So we're not just a human being in the universe with the whole universe in one human being,
Beautiful.
but we're the whole universe experiencing itself.
Mhm.
So I find it beautiful to look and see, like we had a winter solstice celebration at the garden retreat. I had yoga teachers coming doing stuff, meditation people coming doing stuff, massage people coming doing stuff. I do all those things, but I called it um, celebrating each other at the
Mm.
winter solstice. And I'm just really into, we've got a beautiful community here in Costa Blanca North. And I feel like that. I feel like we're just all celebrating each other and each other's uniqueness. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's the way to go with it, isn't it? It just takes you to that place of doing things out of love and not out of fear, ego, competition, or needing to make money, I've got to get bums on seats and that kind of thing. We're just providing a service, and it that's how we create our abundance. As long as you realize that you're not attached to the abundance that you're creating. If you're too attached to it being financial abundance, then you might be disappointed. If you're too attached to it being, abundance of health, if you're too attached to that, you might be disappointed. You see what I mean? You've even got to let go of trying to control or define the abundance that you're creating when you're in alignment with your divinity. Does that make sense? This
It does.
letting go, it doesn't stop, does it?
No, no. Well, it speaks to, I mean, there's just so much in there, just around allowing and seeing the light in the different variations. It's like, every flower, the flowers are not in competition with each other. They're flowers, like they're all beautiful. They're all coded to grow, like and that's the alignment I think we're talking about in terms of spiritual alignment of we might use forgiveness as a concept or a tool and a soul lesson. Like if I can, because I use this in my work, just a forgiveness process, and very simply put, it's like, oh, okay, here's the judgment. Here's the judgment, the resentment, the regret, the memory, the grievance. There it is. Am I willing to see this differently? Am I willing to let it go? Yes, no, or maybe. Yes. Okay, yeah, I'm ready to see this differently. I'm ready to let this go. What could this mean for my soul? Allowing, you know, independence, freedom. And then if I'm like, oh, okay, well those are the qualities of being that I want to embrace, then I can be grateful that I had that experience. And so it's like getting to this place, because if I'm in the space of freedom and gratitude and love and being, then I can invite all of the people over to my house and we can have a great time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's all
Yeah.
good because we're all flowers and you're not prettier than me. And it's not even about that, because at the end of the day, we're all flowers. You know?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love the way you're talking about forgiveness and allowing or acceptance, because forgiveness and acceptance, of course, are at the top of the heart chakra on the map of consciousness.
Mm.
And they are what I call the two spiritual lessons that we need to master in order to get to the next level, which is love at 500.
Map of consciousness, is that pyramid?
It's not a pyramid, it's actually a full map. I can't show it to you now for copyright reasons. But there is a part of it that is often used, which does look like a cone. That's
Mm.
commonly used. But yeah, I have got a video on it on my channel, the map of consciousness, on my lessons in awakening.
Okay, we'll
Um,
have a look.
so yeah, if you wanted to know more about it, I think it's really relevant. I think it really helps us see the path that we're on, and that path, um, I think, is our destiny. I think our destiny is the free will of our higher self, and the letting our destiny unfold. I think that's where our abundance lies, and I think if we understand that from a soul level, we've already chosen our destiny. And the way to find it um, is to follow your joy, isn't it? It's all the time. Follow your joy, follow your excitement, because when your body is in the frequency of excitement, when you're resonating at the frequency of excitement, that is your higher self telling you that you're in alignment with your divinity.
Absolutely.
And that's why life was never meant to be a struggle, right? I think of these two souls that are talking before they incarnate, or maybe it's the angels, or I don't know, the spirit guides. And they're like, how do we get these guys to fulfill their destiny? And it's like, well, we'll make it so enjoyable for them. We'll make it so that they want to do nothing else but do what is the thing that they want to do in their destiny. And they said that's the best thing to do. Make them feel so ecstatic, so in love, so expanded that they'll want to do nothing else but do that. And then it's like further they get so programmed. It's like, yeah, but they're only doing it at the weekend. And they're running on a hamster wheel all week, and then they're just doing it at the weekend. So that's a big, big step, is helping people trust their excitement,
Right.
and trust their passion hobbies, which is all coming up now because of the Great Awakening, of course, especially this year, I'm noticing it, and taking that leap of faith. It is about that leap of faith, and leaving the day job so that you can spend all of your time doing what lights you up. And that's one of the things I'm also really passionate about, tarot, as you know. But the fool's journey throughout the major arcana is taking a leap of faith, and then that's when you'll have all these spiritual lessons which are represented in the major arcana. And it's perfect. I mean, because it's all there, and you just that's why it doesn't matter when things go like this, or you have some fear, or something comes up that is less preferred. It's like, it's okay. I created this. Whether I created it from my frequency or whether it's part of the destiny that I created in my soul self before I incarnated. Either way, it's for me to navigate, and it's for me to navigate with love, ease, and grace. Can I
Mhm.
do that? Well, that's the question, isn't it? And then we can do that so much better when we have released, trapped emotions, and we have let go of all the balloons. And then when we do that, it's not even about us taking the next step. It's about allowing your destiny to unfold. And that means allowing your next step to come to you.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the beautiful things I'm experiencing now at the garden retreat, because I'll get a group of people in for one workshop. They're not all my workshops. I host other people's workshops as well. Um, and then so I'm meeting all these new people. And then one of the people that's come wants to do a workshop, and it's exactly something that I need. And
Mm.
all I'm doing is sitting in my garden, and people are
I love it.
coming. And then the next workshop is exactly what I need. And then the next workshop is exactly what I need. And then people come and say, can I do my workshop from your garden? And I'm like, oh, come and talk to me. And then after about 30 seconds, I'm like, yep, you can do that because it's what I need. I mean, talk about there is only me, right?
Amazing.
And then also, people come and I host events, and it excites me, and I'm serving. And because we all need to be. It's our divine nature to want to serve humanity.
Mhm. It's
But this is an example of how we are serving humanity by serving ourselves.
Mhm. It's just a reframe. It's a big shift in the way that I think we were raised. It's like we came in with that information, then we forgot. And now it's a process of learning, of awakening, and it's like we've been in a bad dream and now we're kind of like waking up, and it's like that act of love, of seeing yourself as a vehicle for love in this reality. It gives you heightened intuition. It's like the next right thing is right in front of you. All of these miracles start occurring naturally as expressions of that initial love, of being open to potential and possibility, and letting go of balloons and not having to be right. And doing those, letting go of emotions, letting people use whatever toothpaste they want and eating the animals. It's like we just kind
Yeah.
of like, you're just like, okay, fine.
Uh-huh.
Okay, fine. Hands
Yeah.
off the wheel. And then it's like, well, why were we even driving anyway? Like
Yes. It's what you said before about complicated. And I've always thought it is so simple. But I think we do have to wade through the complexity in order to get to the simplicity. That's how I feel about it. So I'm not saying that the journey is always easy, but the journey can be easy, it can be fun. And I think it's just looking at it from the level that you are your own project.
Mhm. I
And
think
then and look at with excitement at what comes in, what is being reflected back to you, and enjoy the process.
I think
But without getting hung up on the fact that if you don't understand a message, or you have to hear it again and again, it's okay too, right?
right, right. And that we're here to learn, and life is a school. I think that's a fun one too. I really want to wrap it because we're a little bit over an hour, and I know people have
Things to do.
Things to do, places to go. I could talk about this stuff all afternoon. I love it. But I think where I want to land with this is what you're saying here about excitement and learning how to trust your highest excitement as kind of that. I mean, we can call it a divine purpose, but it's in that realm of actually feeling like you are fulfilled. You're satiated in a way that you didn't realize you needed to be satiated because it's like I wanted peace and I didn't realize it came from surrender, you know? Like I was trying to move all of the things to be perfect so that I could be at peace, but actually it was about being at peace and then all of those things would make sense at some
Of
point, you
course,
know?
because they're mirrors.
Yeah.
You've got to find the peace in your own heart
Mhm.
before you can see it outside of you.
Yeah.
Can you be that peace while there's chaos around?
Hmm.
That's that's what our journey leads us to, right? Is just creating that peace. And that's the self-love, isn't it? All the time. Nothing is worth your heaven on earth. You know,
Hmm.
keep the peace in your heart at all times. That's the one that, well, that's what I'm working on at the moment, or not working on at the moment, because it's the things that take the peace away, as we've just said, are the trapped emotions, the limiting beliefs, the perceptions. And so really it's like, even the phrase working on, it's like, no, 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 because if you just allow yourself to be, and you just take a couple of breaths, close your eyes and put yourself in that zone, you can feel the peace. Because we're not putting peace in, we
Yes.
are. We are peace. We
Yeah.
are love. We are our divinity. We are source.
Mhm.
And the love and power of God is flowing through us.
I love that. That is the truth. So really, it's all just letting go of the barriers, like just dropping it so that we can see more and more of that actually manifesting and being and feeling those vibrations. It's so beautiful. We are that. It's like it's just so interesting how we've been trained to think that we're all the other things. Do you know? When really we're just those sparks of light. We're ideas in the mind of
But
God.
we have to take responsibility for that,
Hmm.
that we allowed ourselves,
Yeah.
which is okay. We were living in that paradigm, right? But what a beautiful time to be alive. It's the Great
Yeah.
Awakening, and we're creating the new earth, and we're creating a whole new paradigm. So that's why I'm so excited, because I'm aware that we can create whatever we choose, and heaven on earth is going to be different for everybody,
Right.
depending on what you like to do. So
Hmm.
just it's all about creating your own version of heaven on earth
Hmm.
and investing your time, your money, and your energy only in things that you want to keep in your reality.
I
If there's
love it.
something that you're spending time, money, and energy on that you don't want in your reality, you need to stop doing it. And then people always say to me when I say that, they go, "What? So I've just got to stop paying my taxes?" And I'm like, "Well, if the cap fits, if that's what you think, hey, do you want to be paying taxes in heaven on earth, in the new earth?" I mean, this is where the
Yeah.
Great Awakening is helping, and the unity. We've got to find the unity in the community, and stuff like that, and realize that people of the same frequency are going to come together. And
Mhm.
so you can create, there's a lot of off-grid communities growing now. A lot of people, a lot of communities being self-sufficient and stuff like that. I mean, it's all possible. You have to believe it to
Mhm.
create it, right?
Mhm. It's excellent. Really good. Wow. So good, right? Just a moment there.
I know it's beautiful energy. I love your energy. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I love your energy. I love your passion. I love your commitment. I love your focus. And I love your just like, when I think of like really great teachers and mentors, it's like the ones that can take a mundane situation like toothpaste and extract wisdom out of it. Like there was so much wisdom in that. It's so applicable, like it's
Well, that's
we
why I said to you, I don't think I coach people. I just talk about myself.
well, that's well, I guess we're coaching ourselves too. We're
Exactly.
using our life's curriculum. A Course in Miracles, I'm like that's like my foundation, but like it teaches us that you don't choose the curriculum, like the curriculum of mastering love, of realizing that only love is real. That's like the curriculum of life. Like that's the goal. But you can only choose when you engage. Like when you wake up, when you decide that that's going to be your goal, following that excitement, connecting, excuse me, to that intuition. It's not so much I want it to be about this. It's like actually it's about that and you get to line up to that whenever you want. You know? That kind of that gives me some kind of like encouragement that we're always at choice. Do you know? And whenever we choose to engage with the curriculum of life, to look at the toothpaste with a broader perspective. Like what is this toothpaste really about? Oh, it's about allowing others to be the way that they are. And then in
And
doing
it's
that,
about Deborah releasing her need to be right.
right. And then once that happens, then actually the thing that she really wanted, it was like saying, okay, yeah, this marriage is over. And then realizing just because you allowed that potential and you made peace with it, it wasn't the one that turned out, but like it was giving yourself permission to move into that potential and that possibility. It's like I didn't have to hold on to no, it has to be this way because that was what was causing the suffering. That was
Our
the
suffering is always caused by our thinking.
Mm.
Even when, like, something that we perceive as being traumatic, if we perceive it as being, oh, this is the suffering that I chose before I incarnated. Oh, this is the suffering that I chose to grow through. Oh, this is going to be good. It's only ever our thinking that something's wrong or bad that creates our suffering. It's
Mm.
our thinking and our resistance to what is that causes our suffering.
Powerful. So many good takeaways in here. So much good stuff.
Yes. We have gone on for ages.
Thank you, Deborah. This was
But
fun.
people can always look at my Lessons in Awakening on YouTube.
And where
I
else
mean,
can I find you?
I actually put them up in 2021. I started putting them up in 2021. And now I just add to them every now and again. So they're kind of progressive,
Okay.
because things
Yeah.
have changed a lot since 2021, right? So they're kind of progressive and kind of grew with me, or I grew with them, whichever way you look at it. But yeah, I'm now putting them into written form.
Oh, wonderful. Book number 3.
Well, let's just see. Let's see. I don't want to put any pressure on myself. I'm detaching from all the balloons.
Right
But
on. We're just going with the flow and doing the next right thing, following intuition, following your highest excitement. And
yeah. And I was very excited about connecting with you today.
thank you.
So
Me too. People can find you, Deborah, on your website, right? Too.
my website is deborahjanesutton.com. I'm on Facebook as Deborah Jane Sutton, and I'm on YouTube as Deborah Jane Sutton.
She is who she is.
And there's my name down there, isn't it? Where is it?
Yeah, it's there. Right on. Thank you, Deborah, for creating this space for our cosmic conversation. And
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. We must do it again soon,
we will.
on or off camera. I don't mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you to anybody that has listened or watched. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I will send you all this good stuff, Deborah, and sending you all of the love. Much gratitude.